A woman who served as director of cocktail services at Steve Wynn's hotels for years says she was directed by Wynn himself to take time off with pay and that her job was as secure as his. But when Nancy Hummel tried to return to work, she was fired. Our executive producer Dana Gentry here today with that story. Dana.
Thanks, Jeff. Nancy Hummel says she tried to look out for her friend and employer Steve Wynn. Her efforts cost her her longtime job, her savings, and her reputation. After 15 years working for Steve Wynn at the Mirage, Treasure Island, Bellagio, and Wynn Las Vegas, Nancy Hummel considered herself a loyal employee. For the opening of Wynn alone, Hummel interviewed more than 3,500 applicants to hire 220 servers, seen here with Wynn in a pre-opening photo. When Hummel raised concerns that her servers lacked even basic equipment at the resort's grand opening, Wynn showed his post-opening appreciation for her concern with a gift, a BMW X5. So Hummel says she was taken aback and concerned for Wynn when fellow managers suggested she take a cut of her cocktail servers' tips, a practice not in keeping with Wynn's previous resorts.
I said, "Are you out of your mind? I don't want my cocktail waitresses paying me." I was actually pretty offended by the question.
Hummel says her protest got her branded a troublemaker by other food and beverage managers who she says feared her access to Wynn and tried to discredit her, claiming she was paranoid and even spreading rumors she was prostituting her servers. When Wynn suggested Hummel take some time off, she reluctantly agreed.
Steve just said, "Nancy, I've never seen you so depressed." I said, "I am. Do you want to know why?" He said, "No, I don't care. I just want my Nancy back." And he said, "I want you to take some time off. I don't care if it's a month or a year. I'll pay you. I just want you happy." And he said, "Will you do that for me?" I said, "I'll do anything you want. I always have." Steve Wynn also told me, "Your job is as secure as mine."
Through a referral from the Wynn, Hummel landed in the hands of therapist Rita Pickering, a 25-year veteran of Employee Assistance Program counseling.
Typically, it has run very smoothly. Employee comes in, we do some therapy, we meet the treatment goals, and then they're back to work. This case was unusual right from the beginning. I received a phone call from the managed care company saying that they had a client who was a high-level executive within the Wynn organization, and who was undergoing some distress due to the opening, and they thought that this person had some anxiety, some depression.
After months of therapy, Pickering says Hummel was ready to return to work.
And we were called into a meeting with Steve and Elaine Wynn, and they asked if I would come with her. And that was the first contact that I had with them personally. I said, absolutely, she's ready to come back to work. And so did her psychiatrist.
Then what?
And then Steve Wynn said he did not think she was ready to come back to work.
And the two say Mrs. Wynn left little doubt about Hummel's future.
"You know, Nancy, when people aren't wanted, they leave." And I said, "Why would I leave? I love working for you guys."
There was a lot of yelling and a lot of screaming on Steve's part. And toward the end of the meeting, I asked him point blank, "Do you want her back? Is there a place for her at Wynn?" And he said, "Absolutely, I want my old Nancy back." He thought she was being paranoid because she had brought attention to him during the meeting that there were some other managers that were engaging in unethical and unscrupulous behaviors. And he said, "I don't want to hear that."
Steve Wynn started to yell at me like I've never been yelled at by him, made some comments that were very hurtful, and
Like what?
At that point he told me, "That's what happens. Don't you understand? Are you a stupid little girl?"
Indeed, the managers Hummel alleged were accepting kickbacks were later fired for just that. After a few more months of therapy, Pickering told Wynn's attorney Hummel remained ready to return, but was told she would be terminated.
Actually, what he said was that the situation was unworkable. Steve Wynn wanted to set up a meeting with Nancy, and he asked me what my recommendations were. And I said that my recommendations were that Steve and Nancy have the meeting by themselves, because they'd been working together for 15 years. There was a previous trust relationship there.
Upon arrival, Hummel was offered a severance package by Wynn's attorney.
I walked in and Steve said, hey, honey, and he said, they said you wanted to make sure we would be friends forever, and I said, well, what is this? I have a contract. And he said, no, you don't. And I said, yes, I do. And that's when he said, get the lawyer, get the therapist, she's crazy.
I heard screaming and yelling, and on his part, on Mr. Wynn's part, and then I went in there with the attorney. He said, you've worked in this business long enough to know how it works. Don't act like such a stupid little girl. And he said, you're worthless to me. He said that a few times. As I walked out, he said, Nancy, I love you. And I said, I love you too. Why are you doing this to me? He said, I think you should leave town. And I looked at him and said, leave town? I said, with what? And he said, well, what do you want? And I said, I have no idea. I thought I would be working for you the rest of my life. And he just said, I'm not taking care of you the rest of your life, and slammed the door on me. I don't want to cry.
We wanted to talk with Steve Wynn or anyone from Wynn Las Vegas. Instead, we were given a statement saying the company refused to discuss employees or its employee assistance program. But when the resort opened, then Human Resource Director Artie Nathan touted the program to newspapers. And on a professional networking website, Nathan gives Hummel a glowing recommendation, calling her a consummate professional who puts her heart and head into her work.
I think that this is a very scary indication for employees who go into counseling with the problem that is related to the workplace. And I think that's a shame.
Well, we just spoke with Hummel a few minutes ago. She says Steve Wynn called her Thursday evening after he learned about our story. He invited her to come to the Wynn to meet with him and try to work this out. She says when she arrived, she was met by attorneys instead. She declined to disclose the offer that was put on the table. And as we tape this, that offer stands until 5 p.m. today. That's Friday. We'll tell you next week how this all turns out.
So obviously some movement, perhaps. Here.
Yeah.
All right,
We'll let you know what happens.
Thank you. Appreciate it.